also here with Angel Berrigan. He says Hopkins would be a great fit for the Rams if they have cap space. As for the Cardinals, I'll be surprised if they win 5 games in 2023.
Yeah, I think Arizona's a real mess. I don't think the Rams are much better right now. The question is D Hop going to come play for less money? That's the big issue. He can talk about Kansas City and he can talk about Buffalo, but they don't have cap space. And I'm not sure he's a $15 million a year wide receiver anymore. He had 3 straight years. He caught over 100 balls in Houston and they traded him. And then he caught 42 and 64 in Arizona over 2 years. He was not making the production, the kind based on the amount of money he was making. I'm not going to say he's damaged goods, but there's obviously he's got to prove it. I don't think the Rams have very much cap space. So it sounds neat in theory. I just don't see how that's humanly possible because of the Rams have just so many issues and so much dead money with a cap.
Yeah, well, I think Rams fans are probably just desperate to have another star back on that team since so many other great players have left. But yeah, what a wild situation. You said like the Kansas City Chiefs only had $600,000 in cap space. I mean, it's going to be hard for DeAndre Hopkins to find a good fit.
Yeah, I think Baltimore, because they got 11 million cap space. And I think everybody's enthused about being around Lamar Jackson. We move on. Pick another topic here.
All right. Ryan Kennedy says, who do you think is winning the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Final? Also, how many games do you see them going? I'm thinking Nuggets in 5 and Golden Knights in 6.
Yeah, I think the Joker and those guys are going to raise the trophy. That's a really good basketball team that's kind of grown into it. They got the big center. Michael Porter had a severe back injury when they first drafted him, had 2 surgeries. It's taken him 2 years to find his game. Murray has just exploded. He's the kid out of Canada. And I'll tell you, KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the ex-Laker, he has really played well. He's kind of a glue guy. I just don't know that Miami's got enough people physically to just deal with Jokic. So I'll take Denver. And the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, I tell you look at Las Vegas, that's a really good hockey team. That's a really deep hockey team. Now, they may be a little bit suspect in goal, but boy, they got firepower. I mean, and postseason, John Marchessault and William Karlsson just been potting goals all the time. And I mean, they're carrying them. And I just think Vegas is a complete team. I don't think it's a sexy team. I don't think it gets anywhere near recognition. I don't know who the hell's going to watch these games because Vegas and Florida are not sexy teams. If it had been Toronto or Edmonton, or if it had, been the Rangers, if they hadn't faltered, or the Bruins who gave it all back after everything they did during the season, I think the TV ratings would have been a lot higher. I just don't think it's just not a neon light event.
Yeah, well, I think for the NHL, it's all the teams in the Final Four were in the Sun Belt, right? All Southern American teams. It seems like, those years of all those great Canadian teams, they haven't won much lately, right? So
Edmonton's got the 2 stars, but they've never gotten there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only been since 1967 since the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup.
Oh, that's all?
That's all. Hard to believe.
Yeah, and as far as the NBA goes, yeah, I'd like to see the Nuggets win this thing, but as a fan, I want it to go 7 games. And, the Heat, they stepped up in Game 7 in the East. So the longer this thing drags out, Jimmy Butler might figure out a way.
I don't think Jimmy's got enough friends to play the Joker. I just don't know how they're going to defend Jokic and everything that guy does.
Yeah, he's special.
He really is. Next question.
Moving on down the list. This is from John Hopkins. What are the Padres going to do with Soto? He was 0 for 6 the last 2 games in Miami.
Well, he's hitting the ball on the screws. He's hitting his swing has been refined. They figured out the mess of him mechanically at home plate. Now they got to get Machado back, and they got to get Machado hitting more than 231. Now, Tatis had a good game in Miami. He had 3 doubles, 4 ribbies, but that only counts as 1 game. His batting average was down to 240 when we were having breakfast on Thursday morning. So there's still a lot of work to be done there. We'll just see if they can get hot. They need to put a string together because they're still a fair ways back of the Dodgers, despite all the pitching problems that the Dodgers are having right now.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this all works once they get their 4 superstars healthy and productive, and they get that rhythm going like we all thought was going to happen day one. Then I think they can be special. Soto is an interesting case. You ever notice like certain players when they swing the bat, you can see a silhouette. You don't need to see their name or their number or their face. but you can see a silhouette that's unique. And
Yep.
Juan Soto has a unique swing. It's like the plane of the bat is almost parallel to the ground the whole way through. He's special. I 0-6 on Miami. Hopefully that's just a one-off because he's been good the last few weeks.
Well, he's been, yeah, exactly. I would say in the last 30 games, he's hitting about 340, which is phenomenal compared to when he was hitting 156.
Oh, yeah.
Next question.
Next question. Moving on down the road. This is from our good friend SG Sports Talk Channel. How would you rate Jokic on a scale of 1 to 10?
He came into the league as a 3. You know, when I first saw him, I said, and yeah, granted, big man, Europe, lethargic, doesn't run well, kind of lazy defensively. Jeez, he is so refined offensively. He makes so many different shots. He's got the ability to make passes. He does run the floor more, and he does play better defense. And one thing, big, slow guys tend to foul. He doesn't foul. He does not get into big foul trouble. So I just think he's a really good player. Can I give him a rating right now? I think the NBA MVP, that's quite a calling card. So I'd have to say give him an 8 or a 9. He may not be complete, but geez, he does an awful lot of things that you don't get credit for. And like I said, in the playoffs, 32 points, 14 boards, 10 assists per game, runs the floor, plays defense too, and he plays a ton of minutes.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, if you had to take a pick, your street ball team, out on the playground, do you take Anthony Davis or you take Jokic?
Jokic is better than Davis, although, I mean, Davis is a great player, and I don't get into this thing, who's the greatest of all time. I don't really care. They're really, really good players. They're different players, but geez, and Jokic is somewhat young. He's younger than a lot of guys in the league, so I'm very impressed with him.
All right, well, let's move on. We got some social media comments. I want to get these folks involved too. And here's one right here. Whoop, that's not the one we want. Hang on a second here. I got these mixed up. Got to turn that off and then this on. And here it is. This is from Po Hun Ohi from YouTube talking about the Ducks coaching situation. I would rather have Bruce Boudreau than either of these two.
Well, Boudreau's got a great track record, but he's also a short fix. I like Bruce. He's been a lot of places, has had some success, but it always kind of runs out of gas. I think that the Ducks have a real hard decision to make. They've got so much gifted young talent and so much more coming. You know, I had a scout tell me the Ducks are going to have 5 NHL defensemen in San Diego next year. 5 kids that are NHL prospects. A bunch of them are high number 1 draft picks, all on the blue line. And so what do you need as a coach? Do you need a young guy who's a teacher who can bring them along through what's going to be ups and downs with a very young roster in Anaheim? Or do you need a taskmaster who's really tough, who can guide them? Tough call. I think Pat Verbeek is going to take somebody that he crossed paths with before. And I think Jeff Halpern in Tampa, who's been a longtime assistant to John Cooper and played with Pat eons ago in Hartford in the NHL. I think that might be the guy, but it's hard to say because it's been very quiet. They have not been very vocal. And of course, the Ducks are kind of off the roadmap of the NHL. It's not the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's not Toronto, where every minute of every day, that's all they do on talk show radio is talk about the Leafs or what the Penguins are going to do, et cetera. So I don't even know if he's going to hire him before the draft, although I would hope he would, so that coach could have some input as to what they're going to do with some of these draft picks. But I think the future's right ahead of them. I wrote a column on my website weeks ago after they named the new head coach here, Matt McIlvain, to coach the San Diego Gulls. He came with a great track record in Europe, just based on talking to him and based on talking to Verbeek and knowing what I know about what they've drafted and how they've developed them. I think the losing is about to end in Anaheim, and I really believe the losing is about to end here in San Diego. I think the Gulls are going to have a pretty good team.
Yeah, they're positioned for success. But I think, Verbeek is going to bring in his own guy, right? And so to your point, someone he's crossed paths with. I would hope that it's going to be a coach with a lot of experience if they got a team with a lot of young kids.
Yeah, but is it going to be a hard-ass guy? Because you're dealing with young kids, and the psyche of young kids is different than a 31-year-old veteran. And if things get rocky, you want a hard ass as a coach with the kids, or do you want somebody that can guide them, counsel them, direct them? Tough call. But like I say, at the end of the day, I think it might be the best job in the league to get hired for because they got youth that's already played and they got resources and assets. I mean, 11 picks, highlighted by the second pick in the draft, and 39 million cap space.
And a huge media market.
Well, I don't know that Orange County's a media
But
market.
it's part of LA, right?
Yeah, but I don't think LA, you don't cross the county line. If you're a hockey guy, you're a Kings guy in Los Angeles. If you're a hockey guy south of the LA line, yeah, it's Orange County, it's the Ducks, and probably to a degree, it's San Diego Gulf fan. Okay, on we go.
On we go. And this is a good one about the Who's to Blame video clip that we did from, this is from Ed at Rec One Productions. He said, it all started when the funny Photoshop photo of Kershaw, then the front office emptied out the farm, no real players waiting to come up, nothing vested into the future of the club. They spent it all on hype players, not constant players. I would rather have 2 or 3 average solid players than overpaid players because of their last name. And pitchers, the Dodgers' strength always led to their pitchers first. Farm club pitchers too, but the front office took a gamble and lost. So take the booze and hopefully they all get fired.
Well, that's kind of crossing the line. I've never called for anybody ever to be fired. Not as the voice of the Chargers, not as a talk show host, but at the end of the day, I do hold people accountable. If this does not work out, if the Padres don't go deep into October, if the Padres, even if they don't win the division, if they can go deep into the playoffs and just continue to grow what they did last fall, then it's decent. But pal, if they don't make the playoffs, I might be changing my theory about, quote, accountability. But you need stars, and there's no doubt that they're paying enormous amounts of money. One of my hidden fears, and I can't sense this to be true, but one of my hidden fears is the player's psyche. Well, we'll win. Well, maybe it's okay. By the way, I got my money. Did you get your money? The amount of money they're paying to these stars, I don't see fire and I don't see passion yet. Now, maybe it's because everybody's been struggling and now guys got nicked up. But they need somebody to pick up the flag and say, you're going to follow me. You need a Ken Caminiti. You need somebody like that that's going to drive this thing. But that being said, we've seen Tatis and the explosive things he does that brings players together. We saw what Machado did each of the last 2 seasons where they really became a follower of his as he marched up and down the dugout and ran around the bases and made things happen. So I'm not ready to give up on him yet, but there will be some time during the course of this season to the end of the season where I will invoke the word accountability, and then we may have a different discussion, John.
Yeah, well, I think the Padres, again, it's all on the players. They got to figure it out, and I don't think they've had their top 4, their Fab 4, all cooking at the same time. And they started the season without Tatis. Machado's been hurt. Soto was in the tank for a good part of the start of the year. Maybe in summertime they start to heat up, and it's June 1st. So let's see.
We will find out. Hey, listen, we hope you